I think Ben Carson is a pretty interesting candidate, actually. He caught my attention early off just because initially from the prayer breakfast, which is kind of where he got popular. And so after the prayer breakfast, I looked into him a little bit more, and I think he's clearly an incredibly intelligent man who knows a whole lot more than just his professional experience of medicine. And I think that he's a different kind of politician. I like him because he's convicted about something, and though he's not a professional politician, he's willing to make a stand to do something about it. And so he's just going to run for president. So I think that's pretty cool. Just like a citizen politician saying, this is a problem, it's an issue. I think this is something that's wrong, and I'm going to run for president to fix it. And I mean, I can't think of any other sort of not super public figure that's gotten the kind of attention that he has. So I think that's pretty incredible just to see like the media's paying attention to him, and they're not just like throwing him under the bus all the time. He's getting positive media publicity, and he's getting a lot of support from people who don't know a lot about politics.
But the dream is the thing that drives you on. The dream drove my mother. She was one of 24 children and got married when she was 13. She bounced around from home to home, never really felt stable, trying to get as much education as she could. She dreamed of being educated. She managed to cobble together a third grade education by the time she got married, and she and my father moved to Detroit trying to escape that horrible environment. And some years later, she discovered that he was a bigamist. She only had a third grade education and the responsibility by that time of raising 2 young sons by herself. And the interesting thing about my mother is that she never considered herself a victim. And she never felt sorry for herself, which was a good thing. The problem is she never felt sorry for us either. So there was never, an excuse that was acceptable. She would always say, "Do you have a brain?" And if you did, then you did not have an excuse because you could have thought your way out of it.
Okay, first off, I like Ben Carson because he sent an email that said he was politically incorrect, and that meant something to me because I think if you're politically incorrect, you're probably God correct. And therefore, I was following him from day one. I understand that he would know the Obamacare program a lot better than about anybody since he is a doctor, and he says it won't work. Of course, other people have said it won't work too, but it's believable when he says it because he is a doctor, and I feel that he's more fair. He's went from being very, very poor and when he was young. He's moved his way up through middle class and higher class, and he understands everybody's problems that way. But anyway, my name's Terry, and I'm for Ben.
We can do this, but that's the key word. We, the American people. It's about us. It's not about some elite class of us. It's about all of us. When it came to the first set of conjoined twins that I was involved with, I knew that was going to be incredibly complex. Nobody had ever separated twins joined at the back of the head. It's incredibly complex. And I started talking to lots of different people who knew things that I didn't know. But we were able to galvanize all of that intellect, and we were able to accomplish something so complex. Time magazine called it the most complex surgical procedure in the history of mankind. It succeeded. Why? Not because of me, but because of we. Because people were able to work together. There was another set of twins that we were doing, and I said, you know what? We have the #1 neurosurgical department in the world. We've had people who are experts in neurovascular disease, in cranial-based, skull-based disease, in tumor surgery, all kinds of things. I said, this doesn't need to be about me. I got 18 neurosurgeons involved in that case with teams, bringing them in when we got to the part of the operation where they were the expert. and we were literally 10 hours ahead of schedule. This is what can happen when it's not about who gets the credit, when it's about fixing the problem.
I love Ben Carson, and I love what Ben Carson stands for. He's an American that I can really get behind because we have similar values. Love how he and his wife put their faith first, and that's really important to me. He has some really strong ideas how we can make our country strong again. So I'm really excited about the opportunity to promote him, go around and tell people about him, what he's able to do for this country. I love that he's not a career politician, that he's a man. I call him a Renaissance man because he can think on his feet and definitely has some great ideas, leadership ability to bring those ideas to fruition. I think Ben is the kind of person that everybody can get behind because he brings people together. I think that Ben has a unique perspective that I wouldn't expect to see from other candidates, in that I feel he's the only one that can really reach out and have a great understanding of people at all economic levels. I feel he's the only candidate who's actually lived and managed to get on in his life, having been in all the economic categories in our society.
A wise man by the name of Jesus Christ once said, "A house divided against itself cannot stand." And yet, we have allowed the purveyors of hate and division to hold sway in our society, to make us believe that there is a war on women. Now, how absurd is that? Think about that. To make us believe there's race wars and income wars and age wars and religious wars and just about a war on anything imaginable. What we have to do is realize that we, the people of America, are not each other's enemies. The enemies are those people who are trying to make us think that we are each other's enemies, so they can divide us. And you know, it's perfectly okay to disagree with somebody. Doesn't make them your enemy. We need to get over that kind of stuff. And you know, people have gotten to the point where they disagree with me. Not only they're my enemy, not only am I going to call them every vile name I can imagine, but I'm going to try to destroy them. I'm going to try to destroy their business and destroy their lives. This is what is going on in our society today. And I believe we have to really begin to speak up against it in a very big way, because I'm afraid of where that kind of thinking can lead. All you have to do is look at organizations like ISIS, and you see where you go when you become so incredibly intolerant that somebody has to believe exactly like you believe, and if they don't, then you can do anything you want to them. That's not America. That's not the American way. And we absolutely have to stop paying allegiance to people who put that kind of propaganda out, because it is in the process of destroying us. We also need to recognize that we already have people who are trying to destroy us. The jihadists. They are multiplying leaps and bounds, and they want to destroy America and our way of life. Why should we help them by trying to destroy each other? It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever.
A mother who was only a third grade education woman. She had 2 jobs a day to work to support them. They lived in a shambles with rats and roaches, and they had no money to do anything. And through reading, he was able to elevate himself. And, you know, as I said before, when people sit around feeling sorry for themselves, they don't do anything, they don't get anywhere. And he is trying to show people that everybody has this opportunity.
And she worked very hard, very long, leaving at 5 in the morning, getting back after midnight, day after day after day, cleaning other people's houses, because she didn't want to be on welfare. And her friends were always saying, you know, you got 2 sons, you can be on welfare, and you can get all of this aid, but she just didn't want to be dependent on somebody else, and she struggled. She occasionally accepted some aid, but for the most part was able to stay off of it. And, you know, interestingly enough, you know, there are a lot of people who like to criticize me, and they say, well, Carson grew up very poor, and he must have received some government aid, and now he wants to withdraw all the government aid for people, which of course is nothing but a lie and propaganda. But I actually do not want to withdraw aid from anyone who truly needs it. What I want to do is get rid of the system that creates dependency in people who actually have the ability to sustain themselves. Because it's really not doing anybody any favors when you pat them on the head and say, there, you poor little thing, I'm going to take care of all your needs. And, you know, we've been doing that since the 60s. Johnson's Great Society programs and war on poverty. And what has happened? You know, we spent $17 to $19 trillion on these programs, and what do we have? We have more poverty, more out-of-wedlock births, more crime, 10 times more people on food stamps. All the things that were supposed to get better are much worse. So what do intelligent people do when they're trying to do something and it doesn't work? They stop and they reevaluate. And they say, maybe we should go in a different direction. What do stupid people do? They say, we didn't do it enough, we need to do more. You know, and that's where we find ourselves in that kind of situation. But I actually believe that the majority of people in this country are intelligent and have common sense. The problem is that they've been beaten down, and they've been beaten into submission, and they're not, in most cases, willing to stand up and proclaim from the mountaintop what they actually believe. And this suits the progressives just fine. They really don't even care if you don't agree with them, as long as you keep your mouth shut, as long as you don't say anything and let them drive the vote. They have no concern whatsoever about what you believe. And it really is getting late in the game. And it is really getting to be the time when those of us with common sense have to stand up for what we believe in. If we don't do it, I don't know that we will be able to survive as a kind of free nation that we all admire.
We